Now let's turn our attention to Santorini. This is a Greek island and a popular tourist hotspot, but over the past week it has witnessed a mass exodus of tourists and residents due to the seismic swarm. That's what it's being called. Nearly 8,000 earthquakes have rattled the island over the past week. 8,000. Yesterday, the biggest quake so far rocked Santorini. It has reached a magnitude of 5.2. The authorities have declared an emergency and they're scrambling to prepare for the worst. Here's a report.
7,700. That's how many earthquakes have been felt in Santorini over the past week. Thousands of tremors have rattled this bucket list worth Greek island and turned its Instagram-worthy villages into ghost towns. Yesterday, the island was hit with its most powerful quake so far. It reached a magnitude of 5.2. So now, Greek authorities have declared a state of emergency in Santorini. The barrage of quakes haven't caused too much damage, but they have shut schools on the resort island and fueled a mass exodus of people. Tourists, seasonal workers, residents, they are all leaving on ferries and planes. About 3/4 of the island's 15,000 population have evacuated so far.
There's a bit of fear. With earthquakes, there's a bit of fear. Danger is everywhere. The main thing is not to have too much anxiety.
The Greek Prime Minister has visited the quake-struck island. He has imposed more precautionary measures and announced a $3 million package to construct an emergency evacuation route. As quakes continue to rock the so-called Instagram island, multiple emergency services have been mobilized. Crews of engineers are inspecting buildings. Traffic has been restricted in areas vulnerable to rock slides. Army trucks have brought electricity generators to Santorini.
We have done this planning, which means we have the places of refuge, the registration of the people with special needs who should perhaps be transferred quickly to other places in each community, and they are updated at regular intervals.
What the island is witnessing is unprecedented. There are clusters of quakes that come in unusual patterns, and they've puzzled scientists.
This seismicity has a certain pulse-like, as I said, behavior, meaning it starts with not a big magnitude, around magnitude 4, and then it swarms, it gathers intensity, seismic intensity. So we have a lot of earthquakes happening within 1 to 2 hours. Then the system relaxes again. And then we have again start of this pulse-like seismicity.
Santorini lies on the Hellenic volcanic arc. Think of this as a chain of islands created by volcanoes. But it has not seen a major eruption in recent times, not since the 1950s. So the reason for the current seismic crisis is unclear. The quake epicenters are not concentrated in Santorini alone, but in a cluster of islands, which also includes Anafi, Amorgos and Ios. This is a relatively small area, and the tremors slowly began with the awakening of a volcano on Santorini last year. But the surge only came this January and escalated over the last weekend. While this much is clear, no one knows what's behind the surge. Though there is a silver lining. The tremors are underwater, and this significantly reduces the risk compared to land-based earthquakes. So while the whitewashed island remains in the dark over what's causing these quakes, it is preparing for the worst while hoping for the best.
Hey, welcome back to Fox Weather Live. We got some breaking news updates on that powerful earthquake in the northwestern Caribbean, a magnitude 7.6 off the coast of Honduras. It was actually about 130 miles off to the south-southwest of Grand Cayman. A word of a 4.8 aftershock just off to the west of this. This is out in the Caribbean, very deep water, some of the deepest in the entire Atlantic basin. In fact, it's close by to the Cayman Trench, which has a depth of more than 25,000 feet. The tsunami alerts have been canceled for everywhere except Cuba, Cayman Islands, Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, we still have a tsunami advisory in effect. That was from the United States Tsunami Warning Center, but they've adjusted that for a sea level fluctuation or a maximum rise less than a foot. So some good news there. Generation of tsunami waves have not been confirmed, but they are leaving that advisory up, just letting folks know. This evening, obviously, you want to stay out of the water because of the risk. There's no tsunami threat for any portion of the United States mainland. That is very much to do. You might be saying 7.6, that's a huge number, it's a powerful number. Where it occurred in this deep water of the northwestern Caribbean, but it was a strike-slip earthquake. So you've got the fracture of the crust moving horizontally to one another as opposed to vertical motion and displacement that can really trigger a lot of movement of water. So some good news with that. We're following this in the Fox Forecast Center. We'll keep you updated with all the new information as we get it.
Libyan authorities uncovered nearly 50 bodies this week from 2 mass graves in the country's southeastern desert, according to officials. It's the latest tragedy involving people seeking to reach Europe through the North African country. 19 bodies were found Friday in a farm in the city of Kufra. Authorities posted images on its Facebook page showing police officers and medics digging in the sand and recovering dead bodies that were wrapped in blankets. Migrants' mass graves are not uncommon in Libya. Last year, authorities unearthed the bodies of at least 65 migrants in the Shuyarif region, 350 kilometers south of the capital, Tripoli. Libya is the main transit point for migrants from Africa and the Middle East trying to make it to Europe. Human traffickers have benefited from more than a decade of instability, smuggling migrants across the country's borders with 6 countries, including Chad, Niger, Sudan, Egypt, Algeria and Tunisia. Esther Mulu and her large family are no strangers to food shortages from crop failures. The 69-year-old, her 7 children and 25 grandchildren all rely on her small farm in Kitwe County to eat. According to the African Medical and Research Foundation, it's one of 6 counties which experiences shortened rainfalls. Mulu says she has no other source of income, and in the past she's relied on food donations, but these are not always available. Now we are facing a drought and we don't know where to get food. Some time back we used to get food aid, but nowadays it's no longer coming. Now I don't know whether we lose weight because we don't have any more food provisions. Now we'll be taking porridge in the morning and waiting for a big meal in the evening or the following day. If you can do research and invent a technology to end hunger, I will personally be very happy.
Undunza irona kwende undu irona modono memina.
And that's what the University of California is doing. With support from Microsoft, they're developing an AI tool which aims to help communities prepare for crop failures and prevent cases of malnutrition so people like Esther and her family don't go hungry.
We have now the ability to really ingest lots of data and make use of it and bring value, because data has been used for historical reporting, but now we're bringing an opportunity to use it to predict and bring more value to that data. The third component is really resource mobilization. If we can build a case and build numbers, we can source for resources internally and externally, because we can show the need ahead of time. The main shortcoming, I would say, would be cost, especially when it comes to cloud environment. For this particular instance, we did get a generous sponsorship from Microsoft.
And it's these technologies which hopes to put an end to millions like Esther affected by food insecurity.
We want them to be informed, to be educated of what to do and what not to do in case ICE comes knocking at their doors. There are folks that we knew that were being picked up, that were picked up at their workplace, and so it just hit home that this is a real thing, that people are being picked up.
US President Donald Trump followed through on his promise to punish South Africa by signing an executive order stopping all aid to the country over what he called a human rights violation against a white minority group. Many in Johannesburg said on Saturday they disagreed with Trump's move.
There's no such thing that I've read or experienced or seen on our social media in South Africa that really has a connotation around white people being mistreated in this country. He should have actually come from the Americas to South Africa to come in and see what was happening for himself, and not just take the word of an Elon Musk who hasn't lived in this country for the longest of time, who doesn't even relate to South Africans.
The Trump administration said the South African government was allowing violent attacks against Afrikaner farming communities.
We have to carry our own weight, okay, and I believe we are. For a developing country, I believe we are carrying our support. We do need support from external countries, but that support has to be without any consequences or lines, you know. We should only take support that is given without any lines attached. Whether it's China or the USA, the support should be to help people, not to influence the country politically.
Land distribution in South Africa has been a complicated and highly emotive issue, with racial connotations for more than 30 years since the end of the apartheid system of white minority rule in 1994.
Further, we're now being joined by Jennifer Ewing from London. Jennifer is a spokesperson for Republicans Overseas UK. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me here on the broadcast. Pleasure speaking with you as always. Ma'am, Trump has admitted to speaking with Putin, but there is a lot of ambiguity here. When did these talks happen? Have they happened since 20th of January? Did they happen before? And he did not want to comment on the number of times. It's obviously taken longer than the 24 hours to end the war that he had promised during his campaigns. Why do you feel he'd rather not say how many times they've spoken already when they already have and he's admitted to it?
Well, I think when you're negotiating, you don't want to give too much away. However, there's no doubt in my mind that the conversations definitely took place before the 20th of January and have taken place since then. We know with regards to President Trump that he will talk to anybody. He'll talk to dictators, he'll talk to allies, he'll talk to hostile media, he'll talk to teenage podcasters. So one thing we're looking forward to with this new administration is more diplomacy. This war in Ukraine, which we're coming up on, the 3-year anniversary, which nobody in the Biden-Harris administration, or in the EU for that matter, has been able to say what winning looks like, what the end game looks like. And Trump is just saying, okay, this has to end. Hundreds of thousands of men and women have died on both sides, and it's time for it to stop. So this is a man, President Trump, who does not like war. We know that because he's one of the few presidents recently that no new wars were started under his first administration. And as much as people say that, you know, he's a Putin puppet or that sort of thing, President Trump in his first term was the only president of our last 4 that Putin did not invade another country under. Of course, he invited Georgia under Bush and Ukraine under both Biden and Obama. So I'm very hopeful that these discussions are going in the right direction and there will be an end to this war soon. Now, 24 hours, no, that was hyperbole. We know Trump speaks in exaggerated tones, but at least it's moving in the right direction.
So what you're saying is that negotiations are underway. Of course, they don't want to reveal too much until it's finally happened. These talks could have happened before the 20th of January, but the talks are underway is what one should take away from this statement which has come in from the US president. Jennifer, I also wanted to come to this next point. There are contradictory points that Zelensky has mentioned. Trump said that he wants access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals in exchange for US arms and assistance. Zelensky said he's ready for that deal. and then shows a map which includes half of Ukraine's mineral resources which are under Russian control at this point in Russian territory. What's Zelensky's game plan here?
Yeah, you know, that is, shall we say, the new added piece of news in this story. It sort of came out of nowhere. I guess knowing that Trump is, you know, the art of the deal, he's going to want something if he continues to show some support to Ukraine. The fact that all of a sudden Zelensky is just opening up the treasure chest and saying, here, take this, is it does complicate things a bit, especially if where those rare earth minerals are in what's thought of as more Russia territory. So that will be the discussion to watch going forward.
And he's emphasized that Kiev is not giving away any of its resources, and then shows a map showing the resources that Ukraine had before the invasion, and now it's under Russian territory. It's, in a way, it's telling US, okay, go take it, there it is. It does complicate matters, as you pointed out correctly. Jennifer Ewing, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining me here on the broadcast. There'll be more to discuss. We'll have you on the show again.
Thanks.
The critical decisions that show his commitment and the American people's commitment to Israel have come to the fore instantly. First, he renewed immediately the supply of weapons that had been stopped, which we need as we're fighting for our future, for our existence, and for the broader Middle East in a seven-front war. He immediately released those weapons. He issued yesterday these sanctions on this scandalous and corrupt organization, the ICC, that threatens the right of all democracies to defend themselves by themselves.
President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu both understand that peace is secured through strength, not appeasement, and not by turning our backs on our allies. Before he even took office in January, President Trump and his team helped secure the ceasefire agreement and the return of American and Israeli hostages. This week, he announced a plan to exert maximum pressure on Iran and its proxies who terrorize the Israeli people and the world.
And I want to thank you again. And I want to say, you're invited to Israel this year in Jerusalem. I know you're busy, but find space to do that.
I can't wait.
You'll be welcome on a red carpet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
The devastating efficiency of combat drones in modern warfare has rewritten military doctrines worldwide. From Ukraine's fields to West Asia, these inexpensive weapons have proven that they are capable of neutralizing billion-dollar assets, and now Iran aims to amplify this advantage with its groundbreaking drone carrier vessel that it is flaunting. Take a look at this report.
Drones have reshaped the battlefield. From Ukraine's skies to West Asia, these low-cost, high-impact weapons are proving deadlier than ever. Precision strikes, kamikaze attacks, and relentless surveillance, drones are rewriting the rules of war. Now, Iran is taking this airborne menace to the seas. In a bold display of maritime muscle, Iran has thrust itself into an elite club of nations with advanced naval capabilities. The Islamic Republic's newest weapon, Shahid Beheshti, a sophisticated drone carrier, threatens to reshape naval warfare in the Persian Gulf and beyond. This 180-meter floating fortress represents Tehran's most ambitious naval undertaking to date, boasting capabilities that extend far beyond conventional warships. The vessel's year-long operational range without refueling poses fresh challenges to regional military dynamics. What sets this carrier apart is its versatility in launching an array of unmanned aerial vehicles, including the sophisticated Kaher drone, a miniaturized version of Iran's indigenous fighter jet. The vessel's adaptation from a commercial container ship to a military asset demonstrates Iran's growing prowess in naval innovation and its determination to counter Western maritime dominance. This development coincides with Iran's unveiling of an underground missile facility. Tehran says the facility has hundreds of cruise missiles capable of countering enemy destroyers' electronic warfare. Last month, Iran's Revolutionary Guard unveiled an underground naval base for assault boats operating in Iran's southern waters, which include the Gulf and the strategic Strait of Hormuz. The timing of this revelation, amidst escalating regional tensions, sends a clear message about Iran's military preparedness. Donald Trump has said he wants a verified nuclear peace agreement with Iran.
I really want to see peace, and I hope that we're able to do that. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. I'm not putting restrictions. They cannot have one thing. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if I think that they will have a nuclear weapon, despite what I just said, I think that's going to be very unfortunate for them. If, on the other hand, they can convince us that they won't, and I hope they can. It's very easy to do. It's actually very easy to do. I think they're going to have an unbelievable future.
The US president also denies he wanted to blow Iran to smithereens, describing such reports as greatly exaggerated. During his first term that ended in 2021, Trump withdrew the US from a landmark nuclear deal between Iran and major powers and reimposed biting sanctions. It'll be interesting to see if ties between Washington and Tehran improve or remain tense. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Taking a look at the White House, the clock counting down on U.S. President Donald Trump's 30-day tariff pause. Now, as this back and forth continues, mayors from border cities have formed an alliance to bring the municipal response to the discussion. And let's bring in Mike Bradley, the mayor of Sarnia, Ontario, for more on this. Mayor, thank you for joining us again. We've spoken a few times about what is unfolding. So where are the mayors sitting right now when it comes to this? Because last time we talked, the tariffs were going in a week ago.
Good question, Roger. This cat and mouse game is going to continue for 4 years. We're aware of that. The good news is that more and more mayors have joined this effort. The big city mayors, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, all these other mayors groups. Before, we were very lonely voices out there for the last 6 weeks with our knowledge of what's going on in the U.S., saying you should be very concerned about this. It is really basically economic terrorism against Canada. And there's side issues that pop up, and that distracts all of us. But the real issue is to destabilize Canada. So then this initiative that Trump has boasted about so many times to make us the 51st state can move forward. And that's what we're fighting. The border city mayors, we're all different politics, all different views on the U.S., but we're come together for one cause, which is to keep Canada strong and keep Canada together.
How important then for you was the summit that the Prime Minister hosted yesterday?
Well, I wasn't there. I'm not in that league, I guess. And that's okay, because there are a lot of good voices there, a lot of intelligent people, and we've got a bigger and stronger coalition now because of that summit. I just, Roger, wrote a letter to all the mayors in Canada this past week by email saying, this Canada Day, this 158th anniversary of Canada, let's make it extra special in our communities, and let's send a very clear message, not to the White House, that's a waste of time, but let's send it to the American people, that we are independent, we have our own values, whether they be socially or economically, and we're sticking with those values as Canadians.
Do you think Donald Trump can be managed over this term in some way that just lets you get through it with him and then look forward to beyond him?
Well, if I had the secret formula to manage Trump, I'd be very, very rich. I think what we are trying to do, which is we did last time when Trump was in power, is get to the congressmen, get to the mayors, get to the senators, get to the Chamber of Commerce, the labor unions, and get them to put the pressure on. That's what he'll listen to. He will not listen to us. So that's underway, and it's happening in very different levels between Canadians and Americans. That's the secret to trying to turn Trump's head.
Okay, Mayor, thank you.
일본을 용접하는 엄숙한 의식이 있었습니다. 조선인민군 대연합부대 군종 간부들이 정중히 맞이했습니다. 전체 장병들은 조선인민군을 국가의 주권 사수, 국위 선양을 믿음직하게 담보하는 강대무비한 혁명 무장력, 애국의 선봉 부대로 억세게 키워주시고 하여 뜻깊은 연설을 하셨습니다. 백전백승으로 불멸할 영광의 군기들을 혁혁히 휘날리며 조국 땅 방방곡곡에 격동적인 사변과 기적들마다의 열혈의 투쟁사를
China has set its sights on South America. A new megaport on Peru's coastline that's part of China's Belt and Road Initiative will increase the frequency of trips to Asia this month, with a direct route to China that cuts sailing time by some 10 days. Ritika Gupta went to the megaport in Peru to find out more.
Huge unmanned cranes loom over Peru's Chinese-funded Chancay port, a symbol of Beijing's growing influence in South America. Situated on the edge of Peru's coastal desert, some 50 miles north of the capital, Chancay, a small fishing town, looks set to become a major hub for trade in a region the US has long considered its own backyard.
This giant new port is a game changer, not just for Peru, but for the wider Latin American region. And at a time when the newly elected President Donald Trump is looking to clamp down on trade with China, China has set its eyes on Peru, making Peru a strategic piece on the global geopolitical chessboard.
The man overseeing the port's operations, Mario de las Casas, says the port will dramatically speed up trade that will bypass North America entirely.
You're going to have an express Chancay directly to Shanghai. It's a huge opportunity for South America because right now all the materials that you export to Asia, you have to go to Mexico or Long Beach, and then you cross the Pacific Ocean.
But despite the promises of growth, some in the local community feel left behind. The fully automated port has so far offered few jobs. William Wallace, a local fisherman, is struggling to make a living.
We used to row out, fish in the morning, sell our catch, rest in the afternoon, and return to fish again in the evening. That was our daily routine, but not anymore.
The nearly $1.5 billion port, majority owned by China's COSCO Shipping, is China's latest Belt and Road project. China has overtaken the US as Peru's main trading partner, a trend that could widen across Latin American countries as Donald Trump threatens tariffs under his America First policy. Critics warn of over-reliance on China and jeopardizing the existing relationship with the US, with some of Trump's aides already pushing for huge tariffs on all merchandise coming through the port. But for Peru's Minister for Foreign Trade, Ursula León, it's not a cause for concern.
Cada una tiene una estrategia de comercio particular.
Our agreements with China enhance our competitiveness without compromising other markets.
Could Peru's partnership with China undermine its existing relationship with the US?
Not at all. Our relationships with both China and the US are strong and mutually beneficial.
Peru must navigate a delicate balancing act. For now, the Chancay port stands as both a beacon of opportunity and a source of uncertainty in a world bracing for heightened trade tensions. Ritika Gupta, BBC News, Chancay, Peru.